Hey you guys, how y'all doing? It's your girl, Miss D. Hey, I know you guys can't see this, but this is what I got. I got me a little breakfast here. Yeah, how y'all doing? We're going to do a review on Kandi and the Gang, their episode 3. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little interview, not an interview, but a review on it. I looked at it, and you know what? It seems to be getting more interest than anything, but you know, I'm kind of hungry and I need to eat. Sorry. This is for your bowl. I tell you what. Episode 3 was pretty good, in my opinion. It was very, very good. You know, when it first started out, it's like, okay, let's see how it goes. You know, never give up on something that you think that you might like. You know? Yeah. I seen a little more people than normal. In the first and second episode, one person I forgot to mention that is on this show is this guy, Patrick. He's I want to say the parking manager. They have different managers. You have Philip, who is the manager of operations. You have Brandon, who is the manager. I want to say he pretty much run the floor. Then you have the kitchen manager. You have who is that? Torn, event manager planner. They got quite a few managers. And then you have Don Juan, who is the general manager. I tell you what, this old lady gang, I'm sorry, it's Kandi and the Gang. It seems to be I hope no one is offended by this, but it seems to be a mom and pop restaurant because you got a lot of family members working in there. They have a lot of family members working in there. Very interesting. Of course, in episode 3, you have Philip, who bump heads with Torrance. Go figure. One thing I didn't know is that Don Juan was the general manager, so therefore, Philip has to answer to Don Juan. Don Juan pretty much answered to Kandi. You got the different layers of chain of command. in this restaurant, and most restaurant business, that's what you have. You have, and you have people that don't follow the chain of command, probably because they are friends with upper management, and then you have lower management who has a problem with dealing with that employee because of the relationship with that employee and the upper manager over that manager. That's the problem you're going to get, because it's lack in respect. That is what's going on in this in Kandi and the Gang. I see. Torn, who was the event planner, came in, walked in the room where you had Philip sitting there. I guess he was doing some of his work. And Philip wanted Torn to introduce himself to him. Torn had no idea he was in the room at first, but Torn ended up introducing himself to him. And after they got to talking, Philip didn't introduce himself to Torn. Of course, Torn already knew who he was from the other employees talking to him about it, about Philip. And Philip told Torn, I don't have to introduce myself to you. You are the planner. I guess I you know, to see a manager act that way as Philip, I don't know. Of course, Thorne said he's coming off as arrogant. He did seem like he was a little arrogant, but he seemed like he's a little frustrated with something. I don't know what it is, but he seemed to be a little frustrated about something. And so then you had Brandon, who decided that he wanted to step up to the plate. It was kind of typical how he wanted to step up to the plate to show Philip that he has the capability of managing. When he first walked in, apparently he was sitting at the bar. He came in, ordered him some food, sat at the bar, and ate his food. Now, they didn't have a bartender, so the server had to go behind the bar. That's typical. That right there is something that normally happens in a restaurant business like that. I've seen it time and time again. Here's the kicker. When the bartender is not there, you have servers who have been told by management. Now, this is not in Kandi and the Gang. In restaurants where I've worked at, you have where a manager will say to a server, hey, you're not supposed to go behind that bar. That is the standards. The bartenders are supposed to be back there, and you're not supposed to be pouring your own drinks for your customers. Now, what is so interesting, when a bartender is not there, servers waiting for their drinks to be made, and the manager expects the server to go back in the back to get the drink, when the manager already said, hey, you're not supposed to go behind the bar. Which is it? Are you going to allow them behind the bar or not? Because if the bartender goes and gets their food and the server need their drink, you know, they have to wait for the bartender to come back. You know, it's an iffy thing. But in this case, Brandon sat there and ate, and the server who was waiting to get his drinks, he ended up going behind the bar to get his drinks. Let's go. I thought that was very interesting. And later on, once the bartender came, guess what? The bartender had to come in and clean up all the mess. Yeah, it's typical in a restaurant when someone else is working in a position and then you come in behind them. If they're not supposed to be back there, technically they're really not gonna clean up everything. They're gonna allow you to do it. And that's what happened once Dom came in. She came in late, and Brian, he came from behind the bar. Brian decided he would take a break. Now, this is what's interesting. Brian took a break, him and Rashad. Rashad is a hostess as well that came from Blaze. Rashad said to Brian, hey, we're not supposed to sit here, because they was going to order some food and sit at the bar. So Brian said, Brandon sat at the bar and ate. Why can't we? I guess Brandon decided to go in the confession room. They call it tea time, but Brandon went in, I call it confession. Brandon went into confession room and said, hey, I'm a manager. I'm not supposed to be on the floor, and I can do that because I'm the manager. Well, Brandon, guess what? I don't think that that's true, and I'm going to tell you why. Because you are a leader. As a leader, employees are going to follow what the leader does. If you have an employee who is a leader, that employee is not going to do as you do. But you will have employees who are followers that, I consider them as a work in progress. That's what I consider them as, a work in progress. They will follow your lead because you are the leader. And then they will confront you and say, well, you sat at the bar. And then when you go and say, well, I'm the manager. No. That's not how you do it. I'm like, I'm sitting here watching this and I'm thinking, what kind of restaurant he's managed before? Because that's not what you do. This is the thing. When you have a seat at the bar, that seat and that countertop brings in revenue. It brings in revenue where you have paying customers that sit there. That's who need to sit at the bar. The manager doesn't need to sit at the bar and constantly eat their food, especially if you have customers coming in that restaurant. No, you need to get up, go in the back, in a corner, find a designated area where you can sit and eat. That would be the best thing. I thought that was very interesting. I'm like, wow, Okay, he said because he the manager, he can do that. You know, I tell you, you have some people that get into, I call what is authority figure when it comes to management. And they utilize those managerial skills to the best of their ability to benefit them and not the business. That was very interesting to watch. Then you had, who is that? You had, after Brandon confronted Brian, he confronted Brian in front of customers. Now, in his confession, he said he normally pulled people aside, but I don't think he paid it any attention to what he did. He not only confronted Brian in front of customers who was looking, he also confronted Brian in front of Rashad, which he should have pulled each one aside separately and said, hey, let's walk. Take him in the back and, hey, although you seen me sitting up front eating, hey, that was my mistake. That was my fault. This is what I need to happen. I need for you not to be sitting up front eating. That's all he could have done. And that would have been the end of that discussion. But they took it to a whole nother level. I guess he wanted to prove to Phil that he can do the job. So what he did, he told Phil, Brandon said to Phil, who is his superior, he told him what happened. After he explained to him what happened, he really didn't address the issue with Brian. He just told Phil what happened, and he told him that they cannot sit up front, and eat. But it didn't show where he went into detail. I'm like, wow. So then Phil took it to Don Juan. Don Juan had a meeting with all of the guys, with the three guys, with Phil, Brandon, and Brian. Brian is the server. This is what I found to be very interesting. And this is why a business can be corrupted. It can be corrupt. And the reason why I say that is because when Don Juan is over all three. They were having the discussion, and Don Juan said to Brian, the server, I've been knowing you longer than I've been knowing any of them. That's what Don Juan said. Now that right there gave Brian an excuse to disrespect those two managers. That was a no-no. That right there, what Don Juan did, that was a no-no in a business, because what he could have done, Don Juan could have spoken to Brian by himself and said what he said, instead of saying it in front of those managers, because that gave Brian an opportunity to speak what he felt and at the same time disrespect those two managers. What Don Juan said was something that could be corruption to a business, because Don Juan was general manager. He's letting this employee know, hey, I know you longer than any of them. And it's about respect. True, it's about respect. But what you were saying, you don't say that in front of them guys. Point blank. I looked and I said, oh, this is a disaster waiting to happen. But they're going to get it on point where they need to get it, because if you have Phil who's hanging in there and he changed some of his ways, because Phil is coming off, hey, I'm the senior manager and anything I say goes. This is how we're doing it. That's how he's saying. It's a way that you can say things to a person and they will accept the way you say it. In Brian's mind, Brian thinking, look, I've seen managers like you come and go. That's probably what Brian was thinking. And sure enough, in one of those scenes, he mentioned, well, he'll be the 10th manager to go. I'm like, wow, that's how he's thinking. That's typical in the restaurant business, because when you have a restaurant where that restaurant is constantly going through managers, excuse me, it's because there's a problem. There's a problem in that business, in that restaurant, and you got to be able to fix it to how you need to fix it. It's a problem because you got to be able to have those employees to do their job and work in a positive environment. Because if you have a negative employee, one bad apple is going to connect with another bad apple. And then before you know it, you're going to have all of these customer complaints. The employee is not going to care, because you have employees and customers, they go hand in hand. Customer and associate satisfaction goes hand in hand in a business. And Phil is going to have to change that around. He's going to have to get everybody aboard on the same standards. And what's going to have to happen is probably Kandi is going to have to step in. Kandi or Todd. One of them is going to have to step in and set the expectations for the people that has been with the company, left and came back, because they seem not to get it. You got people that have lives outside of their restaurant, and what can happen, you don't know what is going on with them in their life outside of their business. I've worked in a restaurant where we had a manager who, he seemed to be a nice manager, but the outcome was kind of different when I seen him on the news. It was like, wow. In that business, this manager, he was a hard hit man. I'll just say it like that. He was a hard hit man in this business that I worked at, this restaurant business I worked at. He was a hit man. this husband no longer wanted to be with his wife, and I guess he felt the easy way out was to hire someone to take her down. But he got caught in the end, and he's doing time. I think this guy who was part of what was going on in that situation, I want to say maybe, I thought that he was going to be serving some time, but maybe it was maybe about a year and a half or 2 years later. I was at the grocery store and I ran into him. It shocked me to see that he was out. So that led me to believe that he told on his co-conspirators, and that's why he probably got out of jail. But anyhow, that's not here or there. That was in a restaurant. That happened with a restaurant that I was working with, and we had a supervisor. It shocked me, and I've gotten to the point nothing really shocked me because I've seen a few employees on the news and it makes me wonder, okay, we bringing people into this business and they don't have a history. When we do the background, they don't have a history of any bad habits that's criminal. But it seems as though once they get to work in that business, things happen. And it's like, okay, what made them turn their life? You know, that's what I always want. What made that person turn their life in a different direction like that? Were they fed up with it? And what I noticed is that Brian, he spoke on the situation with with him drinking. He spoke on that situation. And then he talked about a sister of his who is no longer here. Condolences to him and his family. I'm like, wow. So and it's been 3 months. And I'm like, wow, he's going through something and nobody sees it because he's probably not talking to them about it. You have all kinds of issues like that in any kind of business where the employee is going through some things and their behavior that they're displaying is off, and you're like, well, he act like he don't want to be here and this that. No, you don't know his background and what's going on with him. So if you speak with him enough, you will learn a lot about him. And I mean, they got to build that bond. It looked like they are going to be building that bond in Kandi and gang. It looked like that bond is going to get built because all of them that working in there, they know each other, they friends, they family members, they know each other. So you can't go wrong with that. And Kandi seems to be a person who likes success, and that's what she's going to go with. She's a successful businesswoman, most definitely. And that's how she's going to do it. Then you had, this is what was so interesting because you had Patrick and Shadrika, they used to date once upon a time. He was just saying, he just used to mess around with her, this, that, and other, but you know how that goes. And apparently he's dating this other young lady. But let me get off that and get to Patrick and Torn. Now, Patrick is trying to get Torn. Torn is a event manager where he does planning, he does decoration and what have you. Now, Patrick wanted him to decorate and do he's having a house housewarming. I guess he got a new home, and he wants it decorated and what have you. Now, Patrick got with Tony. Later on, Patrick and the gang, Patrick and everybody, all the bartender, the servers, and the managers, they went out and had drinks, what have you, and he announced that he wanted to invite everybody to the his housewarming, including Shadrika, who was she's his ex-girlfriend. She had her fiance with her, and he invited her, and her fiance supposed to go, what have you, which they may not go. But the next day, he went to his girlfriend's, excuse me, she has like a body spa place. He went to her place to have she did some kind of liposuction on him. It's a different kind of liposuction where you don't have to go inside the body. You know, she just had all this gel stuff on him and doing what she had to do. But anyhow, he goes in and he let her know that he had invited them and that Torn is going to be doing his decorating. I thought that was odd for her to dismiss Torn like that, because that seems to be what Black folks do. I guess Patrick seems like he can talk to Torn about different stuff the way he wanted done, but yet his girlfriend, she said, well, we don't need him to do that. I can do that. I do these decoration and what have you. And I'm like, wow. I mean, what? I mean, she just told that man all the way down. She told him all the way down. The other guy who's going to be doing the event planning, he was going to do the decoration. She just dismissed him. I'm like, there go a Black sister dismissing Black brother from making his coins. That was interesting. Hopefully Torn gets to do that design that Patrick wanted him to do. Hopefully Patrick goes with Torn. That was crazy. But that and what else? Then you had who was that? You had, what's his name? They got a new intern manager named Tamika. Her and Phil, they had met up with Brandon to discuss how, things are going, and all of them need to work together as a team, which is a good thing. It's a very good thing. I think that if they build that foundation in Kandi Old Lady Gang restaurant, that can be turned around. That business can be turned all the way around, and it can run pretty smooth. But in order for it to run smooth, Kandi is going to need all of her teams on the same page. All of them going to need to be on the same page. And it's rare that you find that, because you're going to have that one bad apple that just like to twirl everywhere. And if you can get that one bad apple out of there and everybody on the same page, you'd be surprised how successful a business can be. And what Kandi can always do is pretty much expand her business. You know, once she see how good it can run, and if it's on the same page as Blaze, that other restaurant, it can run real good. And before you know it, Old Lady Gang can be all across the country. I don't know if Kandi want that or not, but Old Lady Gang can be running the same way all around the country. And I think this episode was a good episode. So we'll see. This was episode 3. Let's see how episode 4 go. You guys, I'll see y'all in the next video. Y'all stay safe and blessed. And hey, I'm up and I'm out. And hey, y'all take care.